Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Pam. This is Total Pamerky. I thought I would do a knitting series and pass on what knowledge I know about knitting to you, and start out just with some short videos explaining a little bit about yarn and needles, having one about casting on and going on to the basic knit stitch and the purl stitch. And if you would like to see more after that, you can let me know. So I'm going to split up these videos into about 3 or 4 so you can view them at your leisure and absorb them in smaller pieces that might make it easier for learning. I'm also going to, when I do the knitting tutorial, is to flip the video so that it might be a little bit easier if you're left-handed. I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, it might be easier for you to follow on. So for the tutorials, the beginning part will be right-handed, and then I'll flip it so that hopefully it'll be understandable if you're left-handed, and you can look down at that video and follow on as if it's your hands and understand where you should be putting your placement for your fingers and everything, holding the needles. I just felt that might be a little bit easier because I know it's a struggle for some people when they're left-handed to learn knitting, especially from right-handed people. If you enjoy these series or these videos or any of my other videos, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. That would really make my day and help me out. And give this video a thumbs up. In the first video, we're going to go over yarn and yarn sizes, different types, and what needles you should be choosing if you're just starting out. So to begin knitting, you need 2 things. You need some yarn and you need some needles. And you have lots of choices for yarn and needles if you're going to be knitting. I would suggest, if you're starting out, to start with just a basic, just a worsted weight yarn. Nothing fancy, nothing too thin, nothing like one of these guys here. Anything like this, while it looks really pretty, is really difficult to see your stitches when you're first starting out, to see what you're doing. And even something like this, very cute, but this might be a little bit easier. But also these other little bits that are on it can kind of get stuck in around your needles, so try not to go for something that's fuzzy or fancy looking. Stick to something more like a worsted weight yarn, one of these. You can also buy the balls of cotton like this, and other skeins like this. You just need to wind them into balls afterwards. This one you can just pull from the middle, it's a ball. This one you have to wind into a ball. This is Cascade Yarns. Feels really nice. It's a superwash as well, which is good if you're going to be washing it. You can go for something a little bit thicker. Sorry, I'd already used this one before. This is some Woolies yarn by Lion Brand. This is also a Lion Brand Woolies. It's just more of a worsted weight. It's thinner. This one, if you look on your balls, on the label, they'll tell you what size they are. So this is a super bulky. This will knit up faster than something that's thinner. So when you look here, this is a 6. This one is a 4. And I think I had a 5 around here. Yep, this is a bulky weight Bernat yarn. So just when you're at the craft store and you look at them, you can see the weight of the yarn by looking on the label. Also, and some of these others aren't as clear. Like if you do go to a yarn shop and buy some, there's always someone around to help you at a yarn shop, which is kind of nice as well. They'll tell you the gauge of it, so they'll have the needle size there. These ones won't necessarily have that weight on the label to kind of give you an idea, but you can tell just by looking at it that it's not as thick as the really thick one. So go to a yarn shop, get a ball of yarn, stick to something that's about a worsted weight. If you want something to knit up faster, obviously go for something that's a little bit thicker. And then get yourself some needles. So find a yarn that you like that doesn't have a lot of little things hanging off of it. There's a lot of pretty variegated ones out there. Those are the ones that go from one color to another color. So when you pick out the yarn that you like, then you need some needles to start knitting. If you're first starting out, I would just go and get a pair of straight needles like this. These are Brittany needles. I really like them. They're a birch hardwood. You can get bamboo needles if you like that soft, warm feel. These are plastic, or you can also find metal ones. Metal ones, you have a tendency to knit a little bit faster with it, so I find the metal ones to be just a bit cold in my hand, so I prefer, while I will use the metal, I prefer the wooden ones. You can also find a lot of circular needles. But when you're first starting out and you're just learning, stick to just a straight pair of needles. It's probably your best bet. You can find double pointed needles that are also straight. These don't have an end on them on either side. These are used for knitting in the round. If you're going to be knitting in a circle like for a hat, I would still stick with your straight needles. So when you get your yarn and you find a color that you like, you're going to look on the label to see what size of needle that you need. And this is a US 8 5mm or size crochet hook if you're crocheting. And it'll also tell you what it's made out of and whether it's machine washable and dryable. So same with this one. This is a 6mm for a bulky yarn, uses US 10. This is a super bulky and uses size 13 9mm. That's these big guys here. And this is a medium 4, uses 4.5mm, US 7. Which on your needles, they will say on them which size that you need. They're usually imprinted there on the side. You can see that. Also, obviously on the packaging if you're buying them new. These are down at the bottom here. If you have any of these plastic ones, they'll often say it at the top. So to start knitting, if you have one of these balls, I always pull from the middle, and then you get consistent tension coming out of the ball. When you reach in to pull it out, you will end up with some yarn vomit. You'll end up with a little ball inside there that comes out. Don't worry about that, you'll knit through it fairly quickly. But this just allows the yarn to pull out without this turning and tumbling as you're trying to knit. If you do end up having a skein that you wound up into a ball, you can plop it into a bowl, and so when it unravels, you keep consistent tension as you're knitting. This is part of an ongoing video series where I'm passing my knitting knowledge on to you. If you have any questions, comment down below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. If you're finding these videos helpful, give me a like and subscribe to my channel for more weekly crafts. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something today and you were inspired to go out and start knitting.